We go. Hi, how are you? How are you today?
Hi, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm simply marvelous. Now that I'm in your graciousness presence, I am just so thrilled to be able to just sit in this space with you, share your energy, share your thoughts. Your presence is just phenomenal. Just the work that you do. I'm just thrilled to be sitting here with you. Okay. So I'm
Well,
almost like a
thank you.
groupie. I'm
Well,
almost
the
like a
feeling is
groupie.
mutual. The feeling is mutual, and you're going to make me blush. You see the chocolate blush going on here?
Okay, okay. So, Jazz, I'm going to introduce you and then tell some of the wonderful things about you. And then I want you to speak how you have to give yourself some accolades here because I noticed you're not one of those people that like boast a lot about yourself, but you're doing so many fantastic things. I didn't know where to introduce you from or which site. You are doing so much and making such a great impact in our community. And I just want to
Well,
tell you ahead of time, thank you so much for your work.
thank you. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you for having me.
So everyone, this is Jazz Gray-Sadler, and I'm gonna look down at my paper because I don't want to miss anything here. Okay. And Jazz is a producer of Let's Be Real Media. It's a news outlet, a member of the advisory board for, I think it's Philadelphia Diversity Division of Philadelphia's Convention and Visitors Bureau. Also, the founder and board president of 50 Shades of Purple Against Bullying.
Yes,
That
yes,
is just in itself so much. If we could
it
stop
is a lot.
bullying in the world would be a completely different place to live in. Just stop
Yes.
bullying, just that one thing. Because
Mm-hmm.
some folks I realize don't even know when they're bullying people. So it's not
Yeah.
even about the bully that's the bully. It's about folks that's bullying you that don't even realize that that's what they're doing. So this is really, really important. And 50 Shades of Purple Against Bullying is a community initiative that supports safe spaces and increase awareness about bullying in school, home, and in the workplace. Am I
Yes,
correct?
you're
And you
absolutely right.
work to encourage and support families and run anti-bullying campaigns with information and resources and volunteerism and that. And I'm going to say right here in public, anything I can do to be supportive, use me. Okay. And so with
Well, thank
that,
you.
I want you to talk a little bit about what you do. And then I want to talk more about critical conversations. I created critical conversations because I thought it was so important to have a safe space to tell our stories in a non-judgmental way where folks can feel as vulnerable as they need it to feel to tell those stories. Because I think anything that's unheard is unprocessed. If you hold on to whatever it is, good, bad, ugly, or indifferent inside, then it sits in there and it either festers in a way that is not used to create value in your life, no matter what it is, a challenge or a celebration. If you don't speak life into it, then it tends to die. So critical conversations is a safe space for various topics. So this month we decided to do the exit of 2020. I'm a psychotherapist and I am a transformational life coach. And I have so many clients that continuous, I hear all day, every day, Dr. Gilbert, I can't wait for this year to end. I can't wait. And I'm sitting here stunned, like, what are you waiting for? There's a new beginning somewhere. And if it is, help me understand what that is so we can go into this new beginning together. So I thought if we talked about what your challenges have been in 2020, what your rewards or your winnings have been in 2020, and how you can bridge that to create value in your life, Jazz, for 2021, and folks understanding that even us as leaders have had some experiences very similar to theirs, and they may can grab a hold of something and change their lives. So there
All
you go.
right, all right. Okay, so I'll start by a little bit about what I do. And yes, I am the producer of Let's Be Real Media, which is a strong media outlet that supports LGBTQ identified individuals, particularly Black and Brown people.
Mm-hmm.
I established that media outlet because there was such a gap in media outlets that would tell our stories.
Mm-hmm.
And the only time I would hear anything about Black and Brown people who identified as gay or lesbian was when there was something incredibly horrible going on. It would be something sensational. But what I recognized as an entrepreneur, a mother, a partner, and someone who is an educator and an entrepreneur, that those stories weren't being told.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who has children, who worked in the restaurant industry,
Mm-hmm.
be it school teachers, be it bus drivers, no one was telling their stories. And I thought about that and I said, well, rather than continuing to beckon mainstream media to tell our stories, create a media outlet that would do that. And I'm happy to say 8 years into running this media outlet is running strong. We actually cover more than 1.5 million viewers a year. So
Oh,
it's a long file. So they said that that was a need. And that I baked that cookie right in my kitchen, right here in my home 8 years ago, and it's still going strong. Now, the second thing that I did, and all of these things are things that I did after I left my corporate career on Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing I did, I realized there was also something that was going on that did not support us as homeowners, business leaders. We pay taxes, we vote, but our voices were not heard. And so with that, I began to support other organizations that actually elevated our marginalized voices.
Mm-hmm.
So PHL Diversity, which is a division of the Visitors and Conventions Bureau right here in Philadelphia, they encourage Black and Brown businesses to be used by conventions that come here to our city, major conventions. And in fact, the National Democrat Convention that was hosted here when Hillary Clinton ran actually was because we had supported that. And we have brought other major conventions here to the city to support Black and Brown businesses. And then the anti-bullying, which is
Mm-hmm.
speaks to my heart. Founded that foundation 5 years ago. And all of these intersect, by the way. They all intersect. And it's because of my son. He was terribly bullied. And recognizing there are other young children out there that are being bullied, and there are people being bullied in the workplace, but we weren't getting any traction as it relates to that. And suicide was, particularly for youth that identify as gay or lesbian, was going, you know, the numbers are staggering.
Mm-hmm.
And there had to be something out there that would address that. So we'll talk about that a little later on. That's a dinosaur. That's a big beast to tackle. So that's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of how I give myself selflessly to the community that I serve for the most part. So if we want to get to your question about 2020 and moving into 21, do you want to go there?
Yes, absolutely. Let's talk about, because the work that you do, I mean, I can sit here and just talk about that all day. You're right. Everything you do, it intersects. Everything you have done is just been. I'm even speechless trying to come up with the words to just even describe how needed it is in the community. And I just keep saying, when I look at you, I see you on social media, and I just smile because I say, that girl, she out there doing it. She's doing the darn thing, and it needs to happen. And it just to realize that you have a voice, your voice is important, and how to use your voice in our community to create just such phenomenal change. My grandson was bullied beyond belief. My grandson, when he was in high school, I used to get calls from him, and I had to jump up and run out the house and go pick him up from school. And I mean, even from the police station, because he's running. And we're talking about a pretty muscular, athletic guy, but they were, bullying come in different forms and shape. Like you say, the LGBTQ youth and the other youth. My grandson, because of his triracial, biracial, or whatever, because we all a melting pot appearances, was bullied because of what he looked like, and at the Chicago public school, he couldn't even go outside. And even to today, he is dealing with the anxiety that came from those experiences. So the work that you're doing, there's even people that don't speak on it. And like you say, the numbers in suicide, especially in our Black and brown youth, has grown exponentially. I mean, it never in history was it like this before. So,
well, you're absolutely right. It is a public health crisis. And to be honest with you, Dr. Gilbert, it's not that it hasn't happened. It's just that when it happens to us, it's not reported.
Yes, absolutely.
When it happens to us, it's not reported. It's only been in recent years that organizations such as the one that I run has insisted that the United States Department of Education begin to capture the data as it relates to Black and brown people who are affected by bullying, as it relates to LGBTQ identified people, as it relates to bullying. You have to understand, when the public educational system reports incidents, they report it by demographic, male, female, and race.
Absolutely.
And if it's an unidentified, so individuals that may be going by alternative pronouns, they won't take the report. They do not report it on a national level. That's true. And so it skews those numbers. So I don't want to get so involved in data and data mining on this. But what I do want to say is organizations like ours aim to do something about that. The other thing we aim to do is to help marginalized people flex their voices. So I don't elevate my voice. Earlier, you were saying, oh, you're too modest, you don't say enough about yourself. So my job is to be in the background and help others flex their voices. Like that big brother, big sister. Well, you're not going to pick on me. But I'm going to show you that you're not going to pick on my little sister or my little brother. Exactly. And that's what I do in the background. I use my influence and my resources to be able to help people flex their voices and exercise their rights. And that's what's so important. I'm going to give you a real small example, a family that I've been working with for about 2 years. The young lady received social service benefits, and she has 3 young children. 2 of her sons were terribly bullied to the point where they were hospitalized. She was fearful about sending her kids back to school because it was repeated bullying, physical bullying. And the school didn't do much of anything about it. So she kept her kids home. What happens is the truancy officer stepped in and drug her into court and threatened to take her children with her. Now, a few things happen. She stands the risk of losing her children because she doesn't have them in school. The truancy officer did not hear her, refused to listen to her. But the moment we stepped in as the family advocate, they hear you through a different filter. It's almost like lawyering up, so to speak. So that's what I mean by we are that agency that can help flex those voices and advise those families about their rights and their responsibilities. Don't get me wrong. There is a responsibility. There's a reporting responsibility. But there's a barrier between the reporting, the entity, the individual that's reporting. It's called fear.
Yes.
It's called fear. If I report that my children are staying home, they're not going to hear the why. And she was right. They would
Mm-hmm.
never hear the why. Because we encourage them to say, hey, I'm keeping John, I'm keeping Mary at home
Mm-hmm.
because of fear for their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And we helped her understand what her rights were, and we were able to get those charges removed and, of course, settle things with the Department of Human Services.
Mm-hmm.
But what if there was no agency like ours that can help those
Absolutely.
families, that can advocate for those families? And this happens more times than not. So let
And
me bring you full circle into 2020 with COVID.
okay.
Okay, so we have families that are required to remote learn. So that's assuming you have access to the internet, you have remote learning devices.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know more than 73%, particularly in cities like Philadelphia and Chicago, more than 73% of youth that have to remote learn don't have the devices or access to internet to do so.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, this is a gap year for marginalized students.
Okay, and they're trying to say it's a gap year too. I mean, I'm here in Los Angeles, so you mentioned Philly, Chicago. It's the same here in Los Angeles. I mean, these kids are losing, and the systems are trying to find a way to normalize the marginalized community's loss.
You can't get that time back.
Yeah,
you cannot get that time back. So when we talk about what we lost in 2020, we lost that entire year.
Mm-hmm.
The entire year, not just our youth, but us as parents in the workplace. We've lost an entire year. That means we've lost access to resources that we would have normally had.
Mm-hmm.
That means that we lost a lot of loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
That means that if you're a two-income household, you may have lost one of those incomes. And you really can't even settle an estate because the municipal offices are closed. You don't have access to resources. And a lot of things are subject to time.
Absolutely.
How quickly can you settle those things? And then you talk about the thing that you do that is so, so very important. What about the emotional trauma associated with loss? So that's a lot to unpack. That is so much for any individual to be able to bear. So what's going to happen after this is going to be somewhat similar to post 9/11. And they're going to give it a name. So I'm considered a post 9/11 survivor. I actually worked on Wall Street.
Okay.
And during 9/11, I was actually supposed to be in the office that day. So I'm considered a post 9/11 survivor. So what's going to happen is there's going to be a post-COVID survivor syndrome. And those syndromes are going to come with all kinds of trauma. It's going to be recall about loss and those kinds of things. We are not prepared as a country. We're not prepared as a world to deal with the existing mental health challenges of the world. And now you've got to add this on top of it. It's a beast.
Absolutely.
And there's no one size fits all. But I thank you and practitioners like you for the work that you do and opening up these platforms for this honest dialogue and giving people an opportunity to be vulnerable and share what they're experiencing so widely. Because you know what's going to happen when people hear these conversations? They're going to watch this or they're going to hear it and they're going to say, wow, I'm not alone. I thought this was only going on with me.
And that's my goal. That is my goal. And like I say, when you hold things inside, they cease to exist, but they affect you in such every area of your life. I mean, every area of your life. When COVID started, I opened a daily check-in and chat. But every day for 1 hour, I sat in front of my computer and anyone that wanted to just call in and speak with me, they could, and it was free. And I had folks calling me from all over the world. And again, that's what let me know the conditions of our emotionality connected just to COVID. Let's not talk about the rest of the things that have happened in 2020. See, 2020 is just like, to me, just clear vision. That's what it represents, 2020, where
Mhm.
you can see all the disparities all over the world, very clear. 2020 took the cover off. There's nowhere for anybody to hide about anything. So 2021, you can create something new, something different. I think it's almost like post-war, like you're saying, where
Mhm.
it has an opportunity for the underserved, everyone to kind of get on it's never an equal playing field. So I don't want anybody to misinterpret me. It's never equal, but
Okay.
the opportunity to do something a little different, because all the rules that we thought we had to follow in 2020, all the rules were broken. And so then you
Okay.
say, well, why does the rules even exist? So if we can have these conversations and let our voices be heard, have folks to hear someone say things like what you're speaking of about bullying, and I'm talking about mental health, um, in a normalized way, they can realize they don't have to stay stuck in the conditions prior to 2020 or the conditions that 2020 brought on. We are the richest, one of the richest countries in the world, and our people are suffering more than almost any country in the world. And that saddens me. So the only way we can really do anything is to empower people to use their voices and to understand is safe, find a safe space where it's okay to not be okay. And I want critical conversations to be that place. So we're having this conversation about exiting 2020. But as we move forward, there are going to be many, many, many other critical conversations to be had. So the work that you're doing is speaks into itself of how you can take that story you're speaking about school. It was already a struggle with school, but then you got 2020, you got COVID came in, school is closed down. The kids that couldn't go to school or having difficulties getting to school in the first place now have no outlet for school. And
Yes, you're absolutely
it's
right.
like a gap year. It's okay that you lost that year. It is not okay. It is not okay to have a
You're right.
gap in your life on for any reason. And that's why I've invited you and folks like you to this conversation to say, this is what has occurred. This is how I have used these challenges. And this is how I see these challenges and these wins helping us propel into 2021 and not go into it, put a wall up. You know, that's what a lot of folks are doing. They're
Right.
going into 2021 already with a wall. And so that
Right.
means
You're
they're going to go
absolutely
in
right.
and hit a wall. And I'm trying to help bring the walls down.
Well, let me tell you about a couple good things that 2020 did do.
Hmm.
And I will say they're good things because, and you hit the nail on the head when you call it 2020 vision, the clarity.
Hmm.
So the clarity about the racial divide, the clarity about outright racism and inequities.
Hmm.
And those inequities also affect our young people, the people who are going to be in charge of our future politicians and educators. So we thought there was almost an even playing field. We were battling about urban schools versus suburban schools. But
Hmm.
then we realized the problems really is just not in those brick and mortar schools. The problem is also the fact that these families don't have the basic resources for their children to learn
Hmm.
on an even playing field. So that was open right there.
Hmm. Hmm.
Millions of kids in this country don't have basic internet services. We
Hmm.
have cities that don't provide free internet. We
Exactly.
have Comcast NBC that's right there in your city, right here in Philadelphia. The two headquarters, the largest headquarters in the
Hmm.
world, are in our two cities. And yet they don't provide, yeah, I'm calling it out, Comcast NBC,
Hmm.
they don't provide free internet for low and poverty income people, yet there is a
Hmm.
mandated requirement that children go to school. So there's a
Exactly.
huge disconnect there. There's a
Exactly.
mandate that they learn. They don't have access to simple devices. And it has nothing to do with the haves and haves not. It has everything to do with, of course, capitalism and where they decide to disperse those services. You know, I'm going to tell you a real quick story, and I don't know if we have time for this.
Well,
Because
we went over our interview time anyway, but that's okay. You know, that's why we are having critical conversations, and we are in charge of this. See, this, we're not talking about the other folks here. We're talking about, we're in charge of this here. Okay, so you could go ahead and let's have it. Let's have this conversation.
So I'm an old head. I'm old school. I don't have any babies at home. I got a little dog, a wife. But I want to stay in contact with young folk, millennials that have children and families and whatnot. So I get that therapy at IKEA because it does support a lot of young families.
Okay.
So I'll go walk around IKEA. I don't buy anything. I'm probably the oldest one in there, to be honest. But what I do is I have an opportunity to get clarity about what the American family is doing and what they look like. And I remember when they said that all the kids had to remote learn, they had to learn at home. And then I see a sea of families. We're talking about the line around the block, and what they have on their carts are these desks. And none of these families look like me. They've got desks, they're buying desks and all kinds of supplies to help their kids homeschool. And I'm wondering, because I'm not in the suburbs at this IKEA, why aren't there any Black and brown families in this IKEA buying desks for their children so that they can remote learn? Setting up offices in their homes. And then I remember, I said, oh, the children I work with are sleeping 3 and 4 to a room. They're lucky if they have their own bed to themselves.
That's right.
So their families can't afford. So you can't get that with food stamps. So this country is a very broken country economically when the basic needs for young people to be able to learn. And then I said, oh, wait a minute, you don't need a desk because you don't even have a tablet or a computer either.
Exactly.
So there are so many problems out there, but we have to get out and we have to be in the community, in the neighborhoods that we say we care about and we serve. So I'm going to leave you with this. And I say it to everyone, underserved doesn't mean underdeserved.
Absolutely.
I say it to everyone. I say it in the boardroom. I say it in the bedroom. Underserved doesn't mean underdeserved. And that's the message I'd like to leave anyone with that's listening to this. So as you're coming up with your plan, as you're walking into 21, stop thinking about a calendar year. Life's too short and too precious.
That's right.
Don't put yourself on a 365 calendar. Every single day you wake up is just as precious as the next day. Treat it that way.
Absolutely. And Jazz, can you also let folks know how they can reach out and contact you?
You can reach me via our website, fspagainstbullying.org. That's F as in 50, S as in shades, P as in purple, againstbullying.org. Or you can Google me. All that stuff's going to come up.
You're absolutely correct, because when I Googled you, everything came up. And you just like, again, we're in such a very similar mindset with our passions of service and change, you know. And I just, again, want to thank you for all that you do and all that you're going to continue to do, because there's some corners that you haven't touched yet, but I know given the time and the space, you will. So I am not confused that it won't happen. I feel confident with you being out there. Okay, I feel really confident with you being out there. Okay.
Well, from all the love and blessings from the East Coast to the West Coast to you, and I appreciate this platform, and thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. And for any and everyone in the sound of our voice that don't know who I am Dr. Tanya Gilbert. And you can find me on all social media platforms as Dr. Tanya Gilbert. You can also, if you would like to join the conversation, you can go to my website. Is drtanyagilbert.com, fill out a contact form. I do respond to each and every person that reach out. I personally respond to you. Additionally, you can leave me messages on Instagram, and I have a column that's called Ask Auntie. And you can
I
ask me
love that.
anything, but make
I love
sure
it.
you want the answer, because I have information. I don't know if you're ready though, but you can ask the question. So thank you so much, and have a peaceful, safe holiday season. And again, namaste.
Namaste.